So the question is, for all of you, is strategic planning an event? Is it a process or a process, Karen? A change in the way you run your business? What do you think? How many of you would vote for an event? How about a process? How about a change in your roles? How about changing how you run the business day to day? How about all of those? Yeah, that's a trick question. It's all of them. See, the world we live in is called analytic thinking world of either or. We call the artificial either or questions. You know, only in sports does it, that's the win-lose, right? But most of the world is about collaboration, cooperation, and it's called the yes and. Yes, it's an event and it's a process. Yes, it's a process, and for many people, it's a change in their roles. We'll talk about that a lot. And it's also a change in how you run your business day to day. Because what people don't understand is you don't implement a strategic plan, do you? What you implement is an annual plan based on the strategic plan. Does that make sense? Very, very important distinction. You don't just build a strategic plan and by osmosis somehow things improve. If it does, you're probably more lucky than anything. So it's all of those. And that's the difference in the 21st century. And when you're changing the way you run business day to day, that's the key word, right? Changing roles, changing how you run the business. So strategic planning or strategic management is really about strategic change, isn't it? That's what it's all about, okay? So that's what we're talking about. And, you know, insanity is doing the same thing in the same ways and expecting different results. And I'm sure you've all heard that quote before. But today, this reinventing of the lead, think, plan, act from our body of knowledge is about building a yearly management system, a yearly cycle that has the simplicity of strategic thinking, the clarity of the plan, and the change having the speed and execution in today's dynamic world. So the theme through all of this is the clarity of direction, getting the whole organization on board, keeping it simple. And if you do those two, the speed of execution should go up. And it has to if you're going to be relevant in the 21st century, right? And if strategic planners aren't focused on those three words, you're missing the boat, you're missing the relevancy you need to have. And if you see there's a quote over there, it says, everything is simple, you see, but you just have to see it. But the bottom line is simplicity wins the game every time. The complexity around the world is there, right? You know, riots in Egypt and Tunisia and, you know, Libya, and all of a sudden gas prices are over the crack. I saw $4 a gallon the other day. Anybody else see that yet? We live in San Diego. We get the worst prices in the nation. So the idea is, how can I find, as Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes said, how can I find simplicity on the far side of complexity? My primary skill, my team would tell you, is I know how to build complexity. And then after we build it, then we got to find the simplicity. Because the simplicity on the near side is usually the knee-jerk quick fixes that fail, as Peter Senge would say, okay? If you have those three, then the star there in green is then you're creating the customer value, all right? But it's got to be a systems thinking look, a holistic look, and we'll talk about how those do it. And the dilemma is, because this stuff is not done, all the research around, and three of us did it for a book we wrote on enterprise-wide change, the consensus seems to be somewhere around 75% of all major change fails. Maybe not go bankrupt, like you know, some of the firms, like Sears is moving in that nice direction, and others have, like General Motors, but they fail to achieve what they're trying to by any stretch of the imagination. Money, time, results, customer value, all those things. And that's a pretty good number. Maybe it's 70, maybe it's 80. How many have been involved in installing large computer systems like ERPs? Yeah. That number was done independent research after we wrote the book, and that number was not 75%. Does anybody want to tell you what number that was? 90. Pretty close, 87%.